Jane Velez Mitchell at the Animal Vegan Advocacy Summit. And I am so excited to have one of my heroes. I really love this man, Seb Alex. He is an animal rights lecturer, but what he does is hit him with any argument. Hit him with any argument why it's okay for you to eat meat, dairy, or eggs, and he will tell you why you're wrong. And my understanding is you've never lost one of these arguments, have you? Is that the thing?
I haven't. I can't say I have simply because there isn't any argument against animal rights. So it's not that I'm really good. It's just the argument is bulletproof, so you can't really fight it. So yeah,
So he says it's not because I'm really good, it's because the argument's bulletproof. Nonsense. It is bulletproof, but a lot of people can't articulate it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I've had times where somebody says, well, I got to eat meat because I've got blood type Z, and I don't know what the hell to say to them because how do you respond to that? Well, let's hit you with one of the hardest ones. What do you say to people who say, "Oh, my blood type requires me to eat animals"?
So that was actually because of I believe, a book that came out talking about it. But that book has been ridiculed and debunked by the scientific community. No one takes it seriously, so I don't even have to argue against it.
Now, let me ask you, what are some of the toughest challenges that you've had in terms of? Because I watched a lecture you had gave, and it was great. You put the argument up there on a PowerPoint. Here's the argument why people say I've got to eat meat or dairy or eggs or milk, whatever. And then you would answer it. And when you gave the explanation, I was like, oh, wow, I want to remember that so I can use it the next time. What are some of the toughest ones, or are they all equally easy to debunk?
I think, in my opinion, they've all been equally easy. I think the only one that I can consider hard is when someone says, I don't care about injustice, I don't care that I'm causing suffering, and I don't care about morality. In that case, it's tough, as in the person doesn't care and there's nothing you can do about it. That's why it's tough, not because the argument they're giving is good.
Does that happen often?
Not often. It usually people try to use that when they don't really have an argument. So they think if they say that, they're cornered you, but they don't realize how much of a psychopath they sound like when they start saying things like that.
Let me ask you, there's so many people who I've had this experience, I'm sure you have, they're environmentalists, they're conservationists. I was just invited to cover a conservation event, and I asked because I had been there a couple of years before and I noticed they had served meat. I said, well, are you serving animals? And they said, well, there's vegan options. And now it's hard where you don't want to be rude, because that doesn't necessarily help our cause. How would you handle that situation? What would you have said to that woman?
I mean, I would have asked them what's their reasoning to add vegan options, and they would have probably said because some people are vegan here, or they would want to say that because vegan food is good for the environment. Then I would follow up and ask them, why are you serving animal based options? And if they think it's because of the taste, then you can ask, do you think the pleasure justifies causing the harm, whether it's on the animal or on the environment? If they say yes, then what's the point of doing an environmental conference? Because if pleasure justifies harming the environment, some people get pleasure from flying their private jet planes all around the world, and then you can't really argue against it. Some people get pleasure out of destroying the environment and making money out of it. And so if the person says, well, it's because we need to eat meat, well, I can just simply tell them that you don't need to eat meat, and that's not an opinion. It's a scientific fact backed up by the biggest nutrition organizations around the world. If they say that because we want to be inclusive, you can say you can be inclusive with plant-based options, because anyone and everyone can eat plant-based options as long as they don't have any specific allergies, and you can very easily not include specific recipes that include, let's say, nut allergies and things like that. So if anything, plant-based meals can be the most inclusive ones.
I know you're very busy and you're doing a lot of meetings, but I want to ask you, I think we have time for one more question. What is the toughest answer you've had to deliver? In other words, what is the biggest challenge in terms of questions that have been posed to you as to explanations as to why they should be allowed to eat meat or dairy? And what was your answer? What was your biggest challenge?
Um, I'm gonna be very honest. I can't even remember a big challenge where I couldn't answer the person. I always ask them, what is the trait? that these animals have that humans don't, that if we were to apply it to a human, it would justify treating the human the same way. And I would tell you a challenging answer if I got one, but until now, until today, and I've been asking this question for years, no one can name a trait that is true of other animals that, if true to humans, would justify treating humans the same way. So far, I haven't had a challenging answer, let's say.
Well, this is so incredible. I wish I could just have Seb Alex walk with me everywhere. And so when I go to dinner parties and I deal with various people who are not vegan and they want to eat animals, I can just have him answer why that's not a good idea. But I really did study some of your answers and thought, I want to use these answers. So thank you so much for everything
Thank
you
you.
do,
Thank
Seb.
you so much.
You are just a
Thank you.
really, really such a soft spoken person, unlike myself. Just such a really calm person, who doesn't get triggered. And I think that's very important. I would love to have Rocky come. Oh, you're going to talk to. Oh, wonderful. Okay, but yes, you go ahead. I would love to, but here I am live. So they were asking me to take a photo. And so, yeah, Rocky, come on down. This is one of. Okay, sit down and scooch up. Sit down and scooch up is our motto here. We're going to get rid of Seb Alex. He's gone, but we love him. And we're going to start with you because you are also amazing. And
Thank you.
we're doing this a little bit off the cuff, right? So
Sounds good.
it's not like I have all the graphics and all the fancy bells and whistles. We're grabbing people as they come up because there's a lot of busy people doing fascinating stuff. This is the Animal and Vegan Advocacy Summit, and everybody is just really working very hard, very, very hard in order to save the planet. So you work with Direct Action Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about some of your work.
Yeah, Direct Action Everywhere's work?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are Direct Action Everywhere. We're a grassroots network of animal rights activists creating social and political change for animals in one generation. And what we're talking about is an animal personhood enshrined in the law of the land of the United States. And, we're achieving that in one generation. And currently, our stepping stone to do that is to enshrine the right to rescue, meaning right to rescue animals from situations from abuse, such as, right now we could rescue dogs from hot cars, right? But we want to expand that to like chickens and pigs and factory farms. We're doing that via the Right to Rescue campaign.
All right, thank you. And just look here at that little green light right up there, okay? And you are going to be at a trial that is coming up on September 8th in Sonoma County, where people who went into egg farms, we don't need to mention all the brand names, but they went into egg farms, and one of them is facing potential 7 years in prison, is right there. We're going to talk to her in a second. Please stand by because I really want to talk to Cassie King. And they documented that what was happening inside those farms is actually against the law because the people of California passed something called Prop 2, which bans battery cages. So instead of going after the corporations, they decide to prosecute the people who showed the world and the authorities that there is something happening in violation of California law. How does that make you feel as a California resident?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for that, Jane. And just as a correction, I'm not going to trial.
No, not you going on trial, but I thought maybe you'd be there outside court.
Yes, I will be there to
Yes.
support, for court support to support
Yes.
Wayne, Priya, and Cassie. And I think I feel exactly how every other California would feel, or just anyone who cares about animals. And that was just completely outraged because like animal cruelty is not something that people find morally aberrant, but it's actually illegal under California law. And at a routine basis, animal abusers, especially multinational corporations and big companies like Purdue and Petaluma Poultry are abusing these individuals. And what activists have done is essentially just document these conditions and take like these incredibly sick individuals to care. Obviously, they should just be held as heroes, but instead, the Sonoma County District Attorney decided to prosecute them instead. And what we want to showcase this coming September 8th is that the public cares about this issue, that we call on them to really represent the constituents and not these corporations, and prosecute animal abusers, not animal rescuers.
I think you're a very articulate young man. I'm going to try to get you on camera because Unchained TV is going to do live coverage every day of that trial. And so I'm going to see you outside court.
All right, absolutely.
And we're going to thank you so much. And now we're going to have Cassie King, one of the defendants. And she is a newsmaker, a change maker. And, you know, I always say, thank you, Cassie, for joining us. And just scooch up a little bit if you would. You know, it's sad that you have to risk either getting naked or going to prison in order to get mainstream news coverage. And I'm only saying that in a slightly humorous way. No, the truth is that Direct Action Everywhere has gotten some good op-eds in the New York Times, for example, but at what risk? People have risked going to prison, and you currently could be going to prison. So,
So one update not everybody might know is that my 8 charges that I'm facing in Sonoma County for mass open rescues at factory farms, 4 of them were felonies, but at the end of our preliminary hearing, my felonies were reduced to misdemeanors. So I'm facing 8 misdemeanors now and a somewhat lesser lengthy time in jail, but my co-defendants are still facing 4 misdemeanors and 4 felonies each. And it's a weird thing in the trial that they can have that sort of arbitrary decision making. I mean, the reasoning the judge gave at the end of the preliminary hearing was that I seemed to be less obviously in leadership at these actions because, you know, you see Priya and Wayne live streaming them and doing certain things that seem like clear signs of having foreknowledge or something like that. But, you know, I'm in leadership in DXC right now, and it feels kind of random.
And so how long have you tallied it up? How long, if you were convicted of all the charges, and certainly I hope you aren't, how long could you do in terms of behind bars?
So my co-defendants are facing around 7 years in prison. For me, it's probably most likely a year because misdemeanors are much less time that they carry. And the most likely thing they would do is run them sort of concurrently and get a maximum of a year.
So let me say this. The California voters passed something called Prop 2, and I think it went into effect in 2015.
January 1st.
And essentially, it banned battery cages. Now, when you went into these facilities where you videotaped egg-laying hens and also, I guess, removed some hens, what did you find, and do you believe that was in violation of the law? And, you know, honestly, if I was asked to define a battery cage, I don't know if I could do it accurately. Perhaps you can give us that answer.
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion around these labels, and that's intentional. It's actually really interesting that I became a vegetarian in January of 2015 when I learned about Prop 2 going into effect, because my dad called me into the room, knew I loved animals, and he told me about this law that meant that chickens in California now have to be able to fully extend their wings inside their cages. So you could think about that as a human. You'd have to be able to put your arms out all the way. Like, that was the big victory for chickens. And to me, that was horrifying that they couldn't do that before, and that now this was being celebrated as, for some people, as good enough, when I just couldn't believe that this industry was abusing chickens in that way. And years later, as an investigator with DXC, only then do I learn that even that wasn't being followed. And there these laws that are passed by voters in California, by people who care about animals, they're not being enforced by the people who have the authority to enforce them. And so this is also what we're talking about. Sunrise Farms is a Whole Foods supplying egg farm where this first mass action in Sonoma County happened in May of 2018. And Whole Foods says they don't use any cages. That's the first level of their welfare standards that they purport to follow, is no cages, no crowding. We've found cages, we've found crowding at Sunrise Farms. So you really can't trust the things that are being told to you. And that's what I learned first because of Prop 2.
And I want to say that this is going to be a trial. We invite Whole Foods, we invite Sunrise Food, we invite Petaluma Farms, we invite anybody from the egg industry or the chicken industry on at any time to give their side of the story or to comment on this. Now, let me ask you this. What do you think about the fact that basically the bottom line is, to get any decent mainstream media coverage, you activists have to risk going to prison? How do you feel about that?
I think it's a sign of a broken media system, and I'm glad that there are alternative media that are working to change that, or to provide a space where important stories can be told, like Unchained TV, to some degree, like these more independent outlets like The Intercept, which has consistently covered DXC, including some of our trials. So, if you're someone who is currently not sure where to get your information, or you have friends or family who are not sure where to get these kinds of stories, I would recommend that you tell them to follow Unchained TV, get the app, to follow Democracy Now!, listen to Democracy Now!, really long-running, very important show that covers these kinds of issues, has had DXC activists on, and is willing to talk about important things going on in the United States and other countries that threaten democracy and threaten the vulnerable. I don't know if we face the biggest struggle. I think we obviously face an extra layer trying to get people to care about animals when it makes them defensive, when they get ad dollars from animal abusing corporations. But I think it's also just a sign of the struggle that most social justice movements are up against with the media landscape that we're in.
What I really am struck by is how fearless you are. I've never been arrested.
Wow, that's kind of surprising.
Isn't it, right? I've been told, like, lower your voice many times, but I've never been arrested. And, it just boggles my mind that you have the guts to go into these places, videotape everything you're doing, so that it's not like you're doing anything subterfuge. Generally, when people commit crimes, they don't want to videotape themselves doing it, because obviously that's solid gold evidence for the prosecution. But it's an upside down world with animal rights. Not only do they videotape, but often the prosecutor argues to keep the video out of the trial because the footage of the animals is so disturbing. They argue that, jurors will make an emotional decision, as if there's something wrong with jurors saying, oh, yeah, I understand why they went in. This is horrible.
Exactly. And in the Foster Farms trial in Merced this past March, which Unchained TV followed the whole time, the activists actually showed the footage of the rescue in their opening statement. Well, Kevin Little, a Merced attorney who was representing one of the defendants, did. But in his opening statement, he said, this is not a whodunit. There's no question of what happened. Let me show you the video now, and then explain to the jury right from the get-go that this is a question of why they did it, and that they were going to be open and transparent about it the whole time. And Alicia Santurio and Alexandra Paul, they both testified. They took the stand. They didn't have to do that as defendants in a criminal matter. They are not required to take the stand and put themselves at risk of answering difficult questions or revealing something that they might otherwise benefit from not revealing. But in this case, they wanted to be as open as possible. And in the Smithfield trial before that, there was the same inclination from the defense, while the prosecution and the judge were trying to limit the footage from Smithfield Foods pig farm as much as possible.
Okay, I have only two more questions for you. I know you're very busy. So my question to you is, there was a quote, and I can't independently verify it, where prosecutor or somebody connected with the prosecution said, we're going to cut the head off the snake, implying that they were targeting these individuals to basically get rid of this whole concept of open rescue, to get rid of the kind of animal activists who go in and take animals who are, it seems like all the animals you took out were identified as sick.
Other individuals took them out. That goes exactly to what you're saying. I wasn't the person, or one of the many people in these actions in Sonoma County, who actually carried animals out of these facilities. But I'm being prosecuted along with my co-defendants for being perceived as organizers and leaders in the movement. And as Jane alluded to, we've heard from a meeting that was held that someone attended in Sonoma County, that their strategy is to cut the head off the snake of the organization, right? To try to go after the people they perceive as being in charge, so that if those people are locked up, then the movement will die out. But that's not going to happen. We see people stepping up all the time. The recent Animal Liberation Conference, where 18 chickens were liberated from a Petaluma poultry slaughterhouse in Sonoma County, even as I and others are facing prosecution in that county, shows you that this movement's not scared by these prosecutions, or at least enough people are willing to keep taking these risks, even if they are scared, to liberate animals, to enact the right to rescue that they believe they have, and to change the world for animals.
I just want to say you just blow my mind. The courage and the organization, the clarity, so articulate. Thank you so much, Cassie.
Thank
and
you, Jean.
I'm just looking forward to covering your case, and hopefully at the end we'll celebrate not guilty verdicts.
Yes, and follow at Sonoma Trial on Twitter. You can use hashtag Sonoma Rescue Trial, and of course follow Unchained TV for the best updates as well.
All right, thank you, Cassie. Great talking to you. All right, we've got somebody else here. We're getting some good guests today. I hope you're all enjoying this. Plop down, and it's good to talk to you. You are with the New Roots Institute.
That's
and
true.
Yes, so since you just plop down, tell us who you are and what you do.
All right. Well, we used to be Factory Farming Awareness Coalition. You may have heard of us.
Yes.
And now we are New Roots Institute. We just introduced our new brand yesterday or Thursday, very recently. And we did that because Factory Farming Awareness Coalition wasn't fully capturing what we do. So now we want to be the roots for the movement. We find young leaders and we train them, and then we send them out to other organizations. So we're basically recruiting and training future leaders. That's what we do.
Let me say this. We're here at the Animal Vegan Advocacy Summit, and it's very exciting. We got so many comments here from people. People saying, I'm loving this. Put her on the team. That was our previous guest. Humans need to see this. Yes. But what I'd like to say is that somebody from your organization actually contacted me on WOVA. I think I'm pronouncing it correct. This is the app
That's right.
runs
Natalie.
all this. And she said, we are the New Roots Institute, and we want to provide volunteers for you. I want to meet you so that we can find out what Unchained TV, which is also a nonprofit, needs, and how we can help some of our volunteers coordinate with you. And I went, yay! Because I will just tell you, I work like literally 12 to 14 hours a day. We're an entire streaming network, and we have our social media director, me, and person who edits a few videos a month, and somebody else who basically gives us pro bono guidance, and that's it. I know I need some rest, and we need people like I'll tell you something. We need somebody to go on a billion and to put all our videos on a billion. I met with the head of a billion, Vika Scar, great guy, and he's like, I don't know if he's here, but I met him at the Animal Vegan, the Vegan Women's Summit, and he said, yeah, you can put videos, and I was like, great, and then I was like, trying to do it. I'm like, wait a second, I don't have time to do this. So that would just be one thing. We also need
send you those people. We
need somebody to help us with our YouTube channel, because we're going gangbusters on our streaming network. You can see we're on, at this moment, 4 different Facebook pages, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Okay. But we also need somebody to organize our YouTube channel, and we need somebody for Pinterest, because I just had a meeting with a consultant, and she's like, what are you doing on Pinterest? And I was like,
nothing.
So,
this is why we exist, Jane.
You could help us so much. And, we are absolutely just about getting the word out to the mainstream media. Let me ask you a question, because so you think some of your volunteers could help us with those things?
Yes. So, yes.
Okay.
We have hundreds of students that come through our program, and many of them are interested in media.
Yeah. Okay, great. And we can teach them.
Yeah.
I always say I learned more my first day on the job than I did 4 years of practicing, journalism classes at NYU.
Amen.
Although it was a great school. But she goes, there are remarkable activists at this event. Absolutely, they are. Sure. But let me ask you, what is the challenge with volunteers? Because maybe it's the way I approach it. Yeah. I've never really been able to get interns for college credit. People say, well, why don't you just get interns for college credit? I've never really been able to get, I have some great volunteers, but it's very hard for me to organize them and get them to do what essentially is drudge work. Like, in other words, we can get a lot of volunteers to go on camera. Yeah. Okay. We just had our volunteer, Sarah Siegel, go live for an hour and a half on TikTok. Yeah. But then you ask somebody, can you upload these videos? Can you fill this out?
You got to find the right people.
Yeah. So it's very tough. So how do you see this as effective activism?
What we're doing?
Yeah.
I mean, we're training the next generation of leaders, and so whether they're interested in media or policy or teaching, we find those students that are the most well qualified, the most passionate, and then we steer them in the right direction.
Yeah. So what you're just saying is it's not just that we get to use them, they will learn a lot.
Oh yeah, we
You
plug them
learn
where
by
they want to
doing.
be.
Yeah. And so many people want to go into journalism. So I want to thank you. First of all, thank you, New Roots Institute. And for anybody who has an animal rights nonprofit out there, which I know so many people that we work with do, I would just suggest contact the New Roots Institute because that's exactly what they do.
We aim to be the roots of the movement.
Well, I want to talk to Natalie. Will you, Rowdy, will you let her know that I talked to you and I really am looking forward to connecting with her.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
Yes, thank you very much. Where would I find her? I'll just go to the booth.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Come on down, our final contestant. No, you're not a contestant, actually.
Happy to be here.
Constance, thank you so much for coming on. And impactful animal advocacy. Constance Lee, is that how I would pronounce it?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, tell us what you do, and you're a speaker here. So that's a big honor to be a speaker at the Animal and Vegan Advocacy Summit. What is your talk about?
But the organization I'm from is Impactful Animal Advocacy. I'm the strategic advisor. One of the things that we do is that we teach animal advocates how to use AI to improve their advocacy work. So my talk at this conference was about AI tools. We just rapid fire demonstrated about 15 AI tools that people can use to generate ideas, to write emails faster, to write social media posts faster, to do research faster, to do data analyzation and visualization faster. And we're saying this is what's out there. You can pick and choose, and we'll be here to support you if you have any questions.
That's fascinating because so far the only thing I've used AI to do is to write poems about veganism. Obviously not a good use of the incredible technology, but no, we were playing around with it. And actually somebody said when Chat GPT first came along, I think it's Chat GPT, here, let's just put 3 words in and see if they come up with a poem. And it came up with a poem that wasn't really that bad in about 15 seconds, which kind of blew my mind. So why is it important? First of all, how did you learn? Because so many people are like, well, yeah, but I don't know how to use AI. How did you become an expert in AI?
So anyone can become an expert in AI. ChatGPT just came out about 7 months ago. So we're all experimenting around with it. There's a whole field called prompt engineering, where we don't know the upper limits of what AI can do. Having a slightly better prompt can improve the output of the text or the image by like 50, 100, 200%.
And when you say prompt, what you mean is what you put into the search.
Exactly. So you might have typed in, give me a poem about helping animals, but you could also role play and try to make the AI pretend like they are a poet in the style of Shakespeare, and they're going to create a sonnet about pigs that are trapped in gestation crates. Putting that extra detail in there and making the AI then think about Shakespeare, it's going to think about everything it's read about Shakespeare and then infuse that into the poem and make it even better quality.
I have a couple of questions about AI. It's not necessarily strictly animal rights related, but with OpenAI, which is presumably uses the internet as an information source, how do you prevent inaccurate information? B, and how do you prevent using copyrighted material if you're talking about imagery?
That's a very good question. So I think there were 2 parts in that.
Mm-hmm.
So OpenAI uses information scraped from the internet up until November 2021. So it can't really access facts beyond that. So I would not rely on ChatGPT for critical thinking or facts. That's something that you're going to have to inject in there. If something's been written about quite a bit, like the framework for nonviolent communication or something, then you can be fairly certain that ChatGPT is going to be accurate about it. But if you're trying to find a general statistic about like how many animals are in factory farms, it's kind of hard to look up. I would not rely on ChatGPT for that kind of stuff because it's a text predictor. It wants to tell you what you want to hear based on what it's studied. And so when you're crafting these prompts, one thing you can do is provide the facts for it. There's a plugin for ChatGPT called Ask Your PDF, where you can actually upload a PDF, and it could be a research paper where it has facts in it, and you can ask it questions and it can interact with that research paper to pull real facts in.
Oh my gosh. What was that called? Chat PDF? I want to write it down.
Ask Your PDF.
Ask Your PDF. Oh my God. I can't even believe this. And then the last question, because I talked to somebody who was in advertising, and actually I called her, and she edits for us sometimes. And I said, can you whip up a thumbnail for one of our videos that I want to use some of the great imagery that you come up with, these fantastical figures? She goes, well, I don't know about the copyright. I might pull something up that might look very good, but it might be from other sources that are copyrighted material. So I can't tell you legally whether you can use it. And I was like, oi. So that went out the window. What's your answer to that?
So we are in uncharted territory right now. I was watching a presentation from Robbie Lockie from Plant Based News, where he said that a lot of these AI generated images are protected by parody laws. So the same way in which South Park can take celebrities and then do parodies of them and they don't get sued. This is kind of, we could argue that we're taking the images that AI has been trained on and parodying them. It's not the original image. So far, it's uncharted territory, so we don't know if this is going to be a legal issue later on. But right now, it does seem to be a way in which we can create images that can convey complex concepts in a way that we can use it freely. So these aren't copyrighted images just yet. That might change in the future.
And I want to say this, just because I'm learning right now, because one of the things we do at On Train TV is we do a lot of videos. We upload thousands of videos, and each one has to have a thumbnail. And sometimes the thumbnails are not that good that are provided, or they have no thumbnails. And I'm not really expert on Canva, so that's why I was hoping to use some AI. But my gut tells me if you can't identify, like let's say there, and I'm just using this completely randomly, there's a Marvel comic and there's a Disney character, and somehow there were entwined in this image that was created that we're going to put on there, like the Barbie protest, okay? And we want a crazy image for that because people are doing a vegan Barbie protest. If you can't identify the image from where it's taken, wouldn't that protect you legally?
I'm not a legal expert, but I think that because there has been no precedent set in law for this, as long as nobody's trying to sue you for it, and even if they do sue you, you can take it away right away. Mm-hmm. But certainly a lot of people are already starting to use AI generated images in their marketing, and these are for-profit companies that are using it too. A non-profit company who's not profiting off of these images would have less to be concerned about from a legal perspective. I don't think anybody's been successfully sued so far for using AI generated images.
All right, I am so fascinated by this topic. I know you're busy. I want to ask you one last question. And again, we've veered off animal rights, but you know what? It includes animal rights, because if we use this effectively, why should just people use it to make money? Why can't we use it to get the truth out? But I have been debating with people this whole notion that AI can be used to destroy the planet. And somebody used an example like, well, it depends on what question or what instruction you're giving to the AI. So, for example, if you said to the AI, what's the easiest way to reduce the total number of animals being killed for food? And the AI had the power to do that. God only knows what action the AI could take, because we all know one way to reduce the number of animals being killed would certainly be to reduce the number of humans killing animals. So what are your thoughts on that as we wrap up?
So this is a whole field called AI safety that a lot of people are working in right now. Right now, the language models and the image generators that we have access to are all simulators. They're generative AI. They can provide us pictures and words, but they can't take actions upon the world. This might change pretty soon. And at that point, AI would be agents in the world that can actually influence decision making, and maybe they would have like robotic bodies to change the world for themselves. Right now, we're not there. There are a lot of companies that are working to deploy this safely. And yeah, it's a field that we definitely have to pay attention to as animal advocates. But I think that the power to do something as drastic like that would be quite concentrated in a few companies' hands.
Interesting. Well, like most people, AI is all that anybody can talk about at cocktail parties, and not that I go to cocktail parties, but it's something that's on everybody's lips, and everybody is sort of on this steep learning curve, except for a very tiny percentage of people who know how this works. I want to thank you so much. I've learned so much just talking to you. I really, really. Did we cover impactful animal advocacy enough?
Very little.
Oh my God. All right. Tell us about your organization. I'm sorry. I got sucked into the AI vortex.
So Impactful Animal Advocacy is a newer organization. We try to take a huge animal advocacy movement that cares about different things, that's loosely connected, and bring them more together, make those connections more dense. People that should be talking to one another, or people that are working on similar projects, we want to connect them together. So instead of like two half-baked ideas, we get one whole-baked potato. So we do this in many ways. Our flagship program is our Slack community. So if you go to impactfulanimalaadvocacy.org, you can get an invite to our Slack community. You can join in the conversation. We talk about AI. We talk about fish welfare. We talk about earning to give. There's a channel for everybody in there. So it's your way to get plugged into the bigger movement.
Well, I like it because I'll just wrap by saying Unchained TV, which is on a shoestring doing what Netflix is doing, what Amazon Prime is doing. And one of the reasons is we get free content from people. We do raise funds to do certain high quality original content like New Day, New Chef, our award-winning vegan cooking show, Pig Little Lies, our award-winning reality series turned documentary, which actually both of those projects ended up on PBS and have been distributed to PBS stations around the United States and Canada. But a lot of times I'm trying to find other videos, and it's very hard. It's like every company, I think, should have a video. For example, every vegan company needs to have a video about their process. I use the example of particularly high-tech alternatives to meat, dairy, and leather. So when I talk to people about leather alternatives, the first thing a non-vegan will say is, well, they're terribly synthetic. And sometimes vegans will say this, oh, it's synthetic, it's chemicals, it's and when I talk to the people who are actually making these products, they're like, no, we're not doing that. It's not synthetics. It's made out of pineapple leather or fungi or, all sorts of other things. Coconut. I mean, there's all sorts of other leathers, but people can't really wrap their minds around it because they're not visualizing the process. How do you take a pineapple and turn it into a bag? How do you take some cork and turn it into a bag? If every company created a process video, then they could use it on their websites. We could also put it on our site because we want to have a whole corporate category, like we have health, like we have fitness, like we have causes, like we have news, like we have, we have all these categories. I want to have an alternative vegan products category, and we could even grow. We could have alternative food. We could have alternative leathers. We could have alternative, cruelty-free products. But a lot of these companies don't seem to have process videos, or I'm having a hard time finding them. And we don't ask for anything exclusively. Like, they should be able to use that on their website too and on their social media. So I've been trying to really encourage companies to do this. But of course, then they have a whole other task. Here they are trying to develop a product, and now they've got to hire a media team to produce and edit something. So there should be a way to have a sort of a collective where a lot of these companies can have either a template or one production company that shoots all of them and then can just distribute them to us and as well as to other outlets.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of places struggle with that.
Yes.
And that's one thing that impactful animal advocacy could help with. Like, you could go on there and be like, I am really good at making videos and this is what I want to do. Are there any companies out there that want to take me up on this offer and work together? So I think you're thinking in the exact way that we think, where like, instead of reinventing the wheel all over again and training somebody in your organization that might not be specialized in mass media to go make your video, or trying to hire somebody off of Upwork, you have somebody who's really skilled, really passionate about the movement, and ready to help you at a low or no cost. And then you can just save so much time.
I love it. I'm going to sign up immediately. They're going to be, oh, she's on Slack again, yakking. No, I just love what you do. You're so smart. My gosh. I mean, it just like blows my mind. This is what I love about the movement. You know, I've been in this about 27 years and I used to know everybody, and now I don't know 90% of the people, and it makes me happy. And then when we go to a restaurant, vegan restaurant for dinner, we can't get in because it's packed. Makes me happy. So I'm really excited about what's happening in the movement. Constance, thank you for taking some of your valuable time, and I will follow up with you because I think we could work together.
Yes, I would love that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, guys, thank you. This has been such an exciting session. Again, we said we're going to go live every single day here at the summit, and we are doing it. And we're going to break these down into little bits so that we can really stretch it out on social media and give everybody the information they need. Because there's so many vegans out there. Yes, we are growing. Put her on the team. This is an amazing, great idea. Products made of pineapple. We've got a lot of comments here. And Becca says, I appreciate this broadcast. Thank you. We put a lot of work into being here, having a booth, going live. Oh my gosh. Harlan says, saw Pig Little Eyes. We'll check out the others. Thank you, Harlan. Download the Unchained TV app. It's so easy. You just go to your phone and put in the App Store. It doesn't matter, Android or iPhone, Unchained TV in your App Store. You can also download it on, if you have a Samsung TV, it's now on all Samsung TVs. You just go to the Smart Hub and go in there and put in Unchained TV. It's also available for download via Amazon Fire Stick. We've got it playing here on Amazon Fire Stick. It's available on Roku device, and it's available on your Apple TV device. That device, you just put in Unchained TV, one word. Thank you so much. This is a nonprofit. All the content is free. You can share it out to people who need it, and it takes a village. So join the team. By the way, the last thing I'll say is that we are trying to get up to like 1,000 monthly donors. We're at 100 monthly donors right now. For the price of a cup of coffee or 2 cups of coffee a month, you could be part of the team. We do Zoom meetings where we answer your questions. And so you can just go to unchainedtv.com/donate and just become a monthly donor for $5 a month or $10 a month. And that will really help us get the word out. So I hope you do that. Download the app and become a monthly donor. Thank you so much. See you next time here on